Good evening and many thanks for joining us. You're watching QTV Nightly News, which is also on Q Radio 103.3 FM with me, Ansmanes Nyase. But first, here are the main news headlines. President Barrow on Thursday commissioned another major electricity access project for communities in Sierra South at a ceremony in Boiram, Lower Fuladu West as part of his ongoing nationwide tour. The Central Bank of the Gambia, in collaboration with Ghana International Bank, on Thursday concluded a 3-day dialogue and masterclass training on trade finance for bankers and regulators. And the National Human Rights Commission has commenced a 2-day capacity building forum for National Assembly members, Committee on Human Rights on implementing recommendations from the United Nations Human Rights Mechanisms. As part of its efforts to accelerate regional digital integration and economic connectivity, the ECOWAS Commission recently convened a 3-day meeting of experts and telecommunications regulators to make cross-border mobile communication more affordable and seamless across the region. And in international news, ahead of this weekend's African Union Heads of State Summit in Ethiopia, foreign ministers from across Africa gathered to set the scene for Africa's future in a rapidly changing global landscape. Stay tuned as we bring you more on these and other stories. And now here's news in detail. President Barrow on Thursday commissioned another major electricity access project for communities in Sierra South at a ceremony in Boiram, Lower Fuladu West as part of his ongoing nationwide tour to inaugurate newly completed electricity projects. Aliou Cisse is monitoring the tour and Hina reports.
This project is implemented under the ECOWAS Regional Electricity Access Project and is financed by the World Bank with a total regional fund of $225 million, out of which $65 million was allocated to the Gambia. The project is expanding electricity to 229 communities nationwide. Addressing large cheering crowds, President Barrow described electricity as a necessity, not a luxury, saying the rollout fulfills a key 2021 campaign promise.
Si pax nga nekk wala nga dëkk si kaw montagne dina la jox courant tey si bés boobu lañ nekk.
He pledged more development projects and announced that the Boiram Road contract has been signed with construction to begin soon.
waaye dinaa leen wax ne su ma fi jógee balaa ñoo wax semaine wala ñaari semaine di ngeen ji machine yi fi.
Dr. Omar Aliou Touré, the Gambia-born president of the ECOWAS Commission, expressed delight in joining the president and the Gambian people to inaugurate what he described as a remarkable project.
This is important for us for many reasons. We in ECOWAS stand for integration. We stand for economic development of the community. We stand for good governance, and we stand for peace and security.
He praised the Gambia's leadership in implementing the regional project, which is also being implemented in Guinea-Bissau and Mali.
I think Gambians have indicated, have shown that they can deliver results, and they have done that. And ECOWAS is extremely appreciative for the leadership that has enabled this. If we have been able to deliver on this project, it is A, the hard work I've talked about, B, the peace and security that prevails in this country. And I think it is important for us to know this.
Gallo Seydi, the managing director of NAWEC, says electricity does more than just providing light.
NAWEC remains firmly committed to ensuring that every community in this country gets access to reliable and sustainable electricity. And when you are doing your wiring, I've been told to reiterate this, that make sure that those who are doing your wiring for your houses are doing it properly and to standard.
Several speakers at the event thanked the government for delivering on its promise while renewing their support and loyalty to the president ahead of the December election. The president's tour continues with further project inauguration in the Lower River region on Friday before wrapping up in the West Coast region on Saturday and Sunday. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cisse.
Central Bank of the Gambia, in collaboration with Ghana International Bank, on Thursday concluded a 3-day dialogue and masterclass training on trade finance and for bankers and regulators. Usman Jata tells us more.
Under the theme Reimagine International Trade Finance for Africa's Economic Future, the training brought together financial sector professionals to strengthen capacity and deepen their understanding of global trade systems. The training focused on correspondent banking relationships, payment systems, global trade regulations, and risk management, including identifying money laundering and sanction risks in international transactions. Deputy Chief Executive Officer and Chief Operating Officer of Ghana International Bank, Raymond Sambo, emphasized the importance of building strong trade finance capacity across African financial institutions.
The 3 days you spent here on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is not just to have conversations, but it's about taking knowledge with respect to what you do to foster business insofar as trade finance in Africa is concerned, but also the compliance, financial crime, and other AML controls that should be in place, in particular in relation to trade financing. I'm hoping that it will mean when the LCs are done, for example, for Gambia, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea-Conakry, there'll be less issues. And I'm hoping that it will foster and expand business on the African mainland.
Participants also benefited from GHIB's extensive experience in trade finance, correspondent banking, payment systems, and corporate institutional banking services delivered from London since 1959. Senior advisor at the Central Bank of the Gambia, Lamin Mane, reaffirmed the central bank's commitment to strengthening the Gambia's financial sector and improving access to international trade finance networks.
How do we maintain correspondent banking relationships in a world of de-risking? How do we align trade finance structures with food security, energy needs, and industrialization? These are not theoretical questions. They are policy questions.
Through case studies, group exercises, and expert-led sessions, participants were able to translate classroom concepts into practical strategies applicable in their daily professional roles. Head of Treasury and Financial Institutions at Ajib Bank, Aissatou El Jallo, expressed appreciation for the initiative, highlighting the importance of continuous professional development in navigating the evolving global trade finance landscape.
We understand that it's not just to sit at the office and offer LCs. You need to understand the customer. You need to understand the correspondent bank that you're dealing with. You even have to go to the extent of understanding the exporter you're dealing with. So these are the things that they've pointed out and looked at. It was really interesting because we've interacted with people from different parts of Africa, get their knowledge in terms of trade finance and bills for collections and performance guarantees, bank guarantees, how they do it. So it's high time Africa start integrating within ourselves. We have the resources, we have the capital, we have the technical know-how. So it's just to have something startup.
At the end of the training, participants were presented with certificates in recognition of their dedication and successful completion of the masterclass. Osman Jata, QTV News.
Now, the National Human Rights Commission has commenced a 2-day capacity building forum for the National Assembly Members Committee on Human Rights on implementing recommendations from the United Nations Human Rights Mechanisms. Loliam Kamala witnessed the opening ceremony at the National Assembly and she filed this report.
The program is supported by the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime through the Security Sector Reform Project. It seeks to equip National Assembly members with the knowledge and tools to effectively mainstream international human rights recommendations into national policies, legislation, and budgetary processes. According to the chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission, Emmanuel Daniel Juve, this capacity building comes at a critical time following the Gambia's recent review by the Working Group of the Human Rights Council on the Universal Periodic Review at its 48th session in January 2025.
The country underwent what is called its Universal Periodic Review, resulting in 309 recommendations, the majority of which were supported by the government. In other words, the government agreed with those recommendations. The United Nations Universal Periodic Review is a process where human rights record of every UN member state is reviewed regularly, usually every 4 years. And during this review, other countries will examine what the government is doing well, what it needs to improve in protecting human rights. Then the states will make, it's like a peer review, then the states will make recommendation for progress, and the country being reviewed, in this case it was the Gambia, can accept this recommendation and therefore is expected to work on them before the next review, which will happen in 4 years' time.
Mr. Diouf went on to say that these engagements are not merely procedural, but opportunities to reflect, reform, and renew their collective commitment to ensuring that the rights and freedoms guaranteed under the Constitution and international obligations are realized in practice for every person in the country. Since 2017, the Gambia has continued to engage with other UN human rights treaty bodies and special mechanisms that monitor the protection of fundamental rights under international conventions. While the country's efforts have been commended, UN mechanisms have also highlighted key areas of concern, calling for stronger implementation, accountability, and legislative reforms to ensure the full realization of human rights for all Gambians. Honorable Fatoumata Tumanjai, the National Assembly member for Banjul South and the chairperson of the Gender and Children Welfare, delivered the keynote address on behalf of the chairperson of the Human Rights Committee.
This is precisely where national mechanisms assume a pivotal role and where us as National Assembly members can effectively provide a structured, a coordinated, and a transparent framework for translating international commitments into concrete national action.
Through 2 days of collaborative sessions, the committee will pinpoint concrete steps the National Assembly can take to turn these human rights recommendations into reality. For QTV News, Lolly M. Kamara.
And a report there by Lolly M. Kamara will lead us to the commercial break, but when we return, we have more national and international news stories.
Stay healthy and hydrated. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, in partnership with the Ministry of Health, encourages you to drink at least 2 liters of clean and safe water every day. Men, adults, and those working in hot environments need even more water. Remember to drink more during the hotter seasons to stay refreshed. Choose clean water over sweetening beverages like carbonated drinks and juices. Safe drinking water is vital for your health. Always obtain drinking water from the safe sources like tap water, bottled water, or protected wells. If you are unsure about your water, make sure you treat it by boiling, chlorination, or filtration. Stay hydrated, stay healthy, and choose water. Drink at least 2 liters of clean and safe water daily. Stay hydrated for a healthier life.
Welcome back. Following the commercial break, be reminded you're watching QTV Nightly News, coming to you from our studios on Kairaba Avenue with me, Ansmana Eswanyasi. Now, as part of its efforts to accelerate regional digital integration and economic connectivity, the ECOWAS Commission recently convened a 3-day meeting of experts and the telecommunications regulators to make cross-border mobile communication more affordable and seamless across the region. More in this report. A recent report by the ECOWAS Commission revealed that more than half of the regional bloc's member states have implemented at least one bilateral roaming agreement since its adoption in 2023. These arrangements allow citizens and businesses to use mobile services across borders at reduced cost, delivering significant savings to consumers and facilitating regional trade and mobility. Therefore, To further advance this objective, the ECOWAS Commission convened representatives from ICT ministries, national regulatory authorities, the West Africa Telecommunications Regulators Assembly WATRA, and Smart Africa. As participants reviewed and validated the draft final report on the implementation of regulations that govern roaming on public mobile communications networks within the ECOWAS region, Reverend Ind Egmont Yirenki Fianco, Director General of Ghana's National Telecommunications Authority, Ms. Folake Olagunju, Acting Director of Digital Economy and Post at the ECOWAS Commission, and Nyake Yoma, Director General of the National Communications Authority of Ghana, stressed the significance of the meeting, expected outcomes, and the need to accelerate the full implementation of regulations. They also highlighted ongoing initiatives, including interstate agreements designed to enhance connectivity and promote affordable communication services across borders.
In line with both national and regional objectives, the NCA has actively supported the implementation of roaming initiatives within West Africa. Ghana currently has active bilateral free roaming arrangements with Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, Benin, and the Gambia, and we are having further engagements currently ongoing with other member states, including Nigeria.
We are here because our goal is clear. We want to actually make a difference to our community citizens. We want to advance the effective implementation of the ECOWAS regulation on roaming to ensure that all our community citizens actually have affordable roaming.
It is the belief that these final reports will target the revision of the roaming regulation and the adoption of the implementation guidelines and the M&E framework, with a view to reforming the regional roaming implementation.
And while they commend member states for their commitment to the roaming initiative and expressed optimism about future progress, they called for sustained adherence to the agreed implementation framework and the adoption of harmonized regulatory guidelines to ensure the full realization of the regional roaming policy.
The Commission is encouraged by the momentum because it demonstrates what can be achieved when member states take ownership, that's the people in the room, when the national regulatory authorities collaborate closely, and when our regional vision translates into national action.
Meanwhile, the ECOWAS Telecommunications Regulators Assembly WATRA, which brings together national telecom regulators from 16 countries, is stepping up efforts to drive investment in the region's telecommunications infrastructure. In line with its mandate, the organization is pushing for wider network coverage in rural and underserved communities, tighter quality of service oversight, and policies that promote universal access and affordability. These efforts support ECOWAS' broader objective of harnessing digital connectivity as a catalyst for economic transformation and social development throughout West Africa. Antoine Sonyasi for KTV News. And time now for international news in a moment. Now, ahead of this weekend's African Union Heads of State Summit, foreign ministers from across Africa gathered to set the scene for Africa's future in a rapidly changing global landscape. CGTN's Daniel Arap Moy tells us more.
The African Union ministerial session opened in the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa, with peace and security taking center stage. Over the past few years, a wave of military coups and unconstitutional changes of governments have forced the AU to play a continuous game of catch-up. The African Union's first concern is the resurgence of military rule, especially in the Sahel and West Africa, where regional stability continues to falter.
The second area of action that concerns our committee is concerns of political instability and security crisis and conflicts in the continent. There has been a regression and progress is minimal. Mediators and officials are slow in delivering the expected results.
Another major focal point of this session is the geopolitical interference over Africa's critical minerals and energy reserves. With global powers racing for control of the resources needed for the green energy transition, AU ministers are calling for a united African strategy.
Unfortunately, a mentality of domination, extraction, and exploitation still colors the prism through which many external actors view our continent. African unity must be real, and African Union must be strong if we are to defend our continent from predatory moves that might come from all corners.
Leaders here are pushing for new frameworks to ensure that natural wealth translates into local development rather than fueling external interest. The ministerial discussions will set the stage for a Heads of State summit this weekend, where the African Union will decide if it will move beyond condemnations and into concrete enforcement of its stated drive to provide African solutions to African problems. Daniel Arap Moi, CGTN, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Now, today, 13th February, marks World Radio Day, observed worldwide to celebrate radio as one of the most accessible and far-reaching forms of mass communication, particularly for communities with limited access to digital technology. Jacqueline Coley tells us more.
Observed every year on February 13, World Radio Day recognizes radio's vital role in promoting education, democracy, cultural exchange, and social inclusion. Despite rapid advancement in technology, radio continues to reach millions of people using nothing more than a signal and receiver. Long before the rise of smartphones and streaming platforms, radio was a trusted companion in homes and remote communities, delivering news, music, and vital public information. Its strength remains rooted in its simplicity, requiring no internet connection or technical skills. In the Gambia, Radio Gambia was the first media broadcaster established in 1962 with its historical base in Bakau. Established during the British colonial era, almost all of its programs were rebroadcast of programs in other parts of Africa and England. That strategy continued right after independence in 1965. Although it created its own news, educational shows, and music programs, Radio Gambia initially depended heavily on the BBC for programming. In 2023, UNESCO established its Media Development Indicator report for the Gambia. It said there were 39 FM radio stations operating in the Gambia. That data was already 2 years out of date, and the number of registered stations is likely to have increased, although some may have closed. This year's theme, Radio with Artificial Intelligence of AI in Modern Broadcasting. The theme is built on the fact that AI is a tool and not a voice, reiterating that while technology can enhance production and content delivery, ethical standards and editorial judgment remain central to journalism. In the Gambia, much of the AI on radio is limited, but that is likely to change. As broadcasters explore new digital tools, World Radio Day 2026 is a reminder of the enduring power of radio, and its true strength lies not in technology alone, but in its human connection and commitment to serving the public interest. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jacqueline Coley.
Now, the Moroccan kaftan has been inscribed by UNESCO as intangible cultural heritage, a move celebrating Morocco's tradition. The decision celebrates Morocco's unique style, but has sparked diplomatic tension with Algeria, which claims the garment is part of shared Maghreb heritage. Usman Jatta reports.
In the Gambia, festive occasions such as Korité bring the streets alive with men and women wearing colorful haftans, flowering robes often embellished with intricate embroidery. More than clothing, the haftan is a symbol of identity, pride and cultural heritage introduced centuries ago through Islamic trade and West African cultural exchange. It remains central to weddings, religious holidays and social ceremonies in both the Gambia and Morocco. While similar in form to the Moroccan kaftan, the Gambian version is looser, simpler in cut, and decorated with local embroidery and lace. Its significance lies in communal celebration and the preservation of family and cultural traditions.
Allahu Akbar.
It has become such a part of Gambian tradition that it has become customary for people to wear kaftans on Fridays. thousands of kilometers north of the Gambia, Morocco has its own iconic long robe, the kaftan, which gained its UNESCO accreditation on December 10, 2025. It is celebrated for its craftsmanship, historical legacy, and cultural significance. Yet, it differs in style, tailored, structured, and often adorned with gold and silver embroidery. Decorative brands, shifafa, and hand-braided buttons are cut. Each garment can take weeks or months to make, blending centuries of tradition with contemporary fashion. The recognition of the Moroccan kaftan at UNESCO is not without controversy. Algeria argues that the kaftan is part of a shared Maghreb heritage, including Algeria and Tunisia, and proposed that UNESCO recognize it as a regional tradition rather than solely Moroccan. Algeria says Morocco's exclusive claim ignores historical exchange and similar garments in neighboring countries. UNESCO ultimately rejected Algeria's amendment confirming the kaftan under Morocco's nomination. Both the Gambian kaftan and the Moroccan kaftan show how long robes have traveled, adapted, and become central to local culture, from West Africa's colorful festive robes to Morocco's elegant ceremonial attire. They tell stories of identity, artistry, and cultural pride. UNESCO's recognition highlights the importance of preserving these traditions while encouraging dialogue about shared heritage across Africa and beyond. Osman Jata, QTV News.
And I'm afraid this is where we draw the curtains on this bulletin. On behalf of the entire production team, thanks for watching. Do join us tomorrow, same time for more news. Have a good night.